Elise Stefanik. I represent New York's 21st Congressional District. I'm in my third term. This is my second term on Intelligence Committee. I wanted to echo what Liz mentioned. This has been a closed door, unfair, and unprecedented process. Tens of millions of Americans should know that their member of Congress has had no access to any of the transcripts. In fact, no member has been able to read every transcript, and let me tell you why. There have only been 2 transcripts that have made available to Intelligence Committee members. The first is Kurt Volker's, the second is Ambassador Yovanovitch's. We were notified this week at our staff level that they would only be printing 1 transcript for every single member, whether you're on the committee or not, and you would have to read it with a member of Democratic staff. That is unprecedented and unfair. Again, this is coming from, I sit on the Intelligence Committee. I strongly believe that every member of Congress should have access to every single transcript, because the question begs, how are these members talking about this in their district? How are they so sure the Democratic support of impeachment when they don't have access to the very evidence in this closed process? And I also believe that every transcript should be released to the American public. We continue to see press reports of cherry-picked excerpts or portions from transcripts. That's breaking the rules, but I believe that this should be transparent. It's not a political game. This is a very, very serious process, and Chairman Schiff is unfit to chair the Intelligence Committee, and these are many of the process reasons why.
Joining me right now is New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. She is the House Republican Conference Chair and a member of the Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. What did you make of the testimonies last night?
Well, first of all, this is a partisan political witch hunt. It truly is a political circus. Look no further than the fact that they ran it during prime time hours. Maria, as you and I both know, a typical serious congressional hearing happens during the day, typically starting at 10 a.m. In addition, they hired a producer, the former president of ABC News, who is the same producer that covered up for Jeff Epstein and was called out for that. So this has been shameless. And what's important for the viewers to know is this is an illegitimate committee. There were no Republican appointed members appointed by the minority leader. That breaks over 230 years of precedence in the House. And most importantly, the American people are concerned about inflation. They're concerned about the crime crisis across this country, skyrocketing energy prices, as well as the border crisis. There's absolutely no primetime hearing that the Democrats are doing focused on that. So this is a political distraction, and it will do nothing to ensure that the Capitol is safe and secure in the future.
I know that you and Kevin McCarthy wanted to be able to appoint Republicans to this panel, but Nancy Pelosi would not allow it. She chose Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Does that mean that the subpoenas that this committee sends out are not enforceable, are not legal?
That is correct. Because this committee is an illegitimate committee, it's the first time in our nation's history that a congressional committee, the minority party, does not have the right to make those appointments. Kevin McCarthy did appoint Republican members to that committee, and Nancy Pelosi took the unprecedented step of stripping them from that committee. That's not according to the rules of the House. That's not according to the rules passed by the Democrat majority. And it's a requirement that any subpoena issued needs to be with discussion with the ranking member. There is no ranking member on this committee because the ranking member would be the minority appointed, so in this case, the Republican appointed position. Now, those Republicans, that ranking member would have been Jim Banks. Nancy Pelosi refused to seat him. What Republicans have done is we have continued to focus on our own investigation, making sure that we are taking the steps to make sure that the Capitol Police has the resources and training they need to harden the Capitol, to make sure that we never face a security breach like that again.
Yeah, I think you make a great point, because this morning there is a report out from John Solomon, and he says that the January 6th bombshell is that Schumer's team received FBI intelligence about possible violence, and the frontline cops did not. So if Chuck Schumer received information that there would be violence, why wasn't that passed on to the cops that were in the front lines?
It's an important question, and it's a question that Republicans are asking. Another bombshell aspect of John Solomon's reporting that comes directly from the U.S. Capitol Police is we know that President Trump requested the National Guard days before. It was Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer's office who failed to ensure that there was adequate security at the Capitol. We also know that not only Chuck Schumer, but I believe Nancy Pelosi's office had that intelligence leading up to January 6th. The only office that the Democrats have said is off limits is Speaker Pelosi's office. She has failed to turn over documents and communication regarding the moments leading up to January 6th. The American people deserve 100% transparency, not a speaker's office that is covering their own tracks. I believe that's why she didn't allow the Republican-appointed members to sit on that committee, because they were asking those very critical questions.
Wow. This is all very extraordinary, Congresswoman. And it's all coming in the face of serious bad news for the American families out there. We have inflation. We have foreign policy that is questionable. We have gasoline prices at all-time highs. The Afghanistan botched withdrawal has had massive implications. And we haven't had any accountability for any of this. The cabinet remains Jennifer Granholm on energy and Pete Buttigieg, transportation, Lloyd Austin. And yet House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she's not worried about losing in November. She says this is not about that at all. Listen to what she said yesterday. Got to get your reaction to this. Watch.
I do know that elections that happen now have a lower turnout than those that happen in November, and we expect to have a big turnout in November. And we have absolutely no intention of losing the House.
No intention of losing, Congresswoman.
My response to that is, like Joe Biden, like all of the House Democrats, Nancy Pelosi is tone deaf to what the American people are going through. On every metric, unified Democrat government has failed the American people. When I talk to my constituents in my district, it doesn't matter if they're Republicans, Democrats, or independents, they are suffering. I talk to young families who have to drive hours to purchase baby formula. I'm a young mother myself. They are rationing baby formula on our shelves in this country. This is something that we have not seen in my generation over the course of my lifetime. The inflation, people are suffering when they go to pay their weekly or biweekly grocery bill. It is becoming unaffordable, and gas prices have doubled since Joe Biden took office. On every metric, the Democrats have failed, and nearly 80% of the American people believe we're on the wrong track. These are indicators that this is going to be a red wave, and the enthusiasm is also significant. Voters are enthusiastic, voting for a change to flip the House, to provide that check on Joe Biden's failed radical far-left policy. So Nancy Pelosi is going to lose the Speaker's gavel one more time. This is just another indicator of how woefully out of touch and dismissive she is of what the American people are going through.
Well, viewers are very dismayed by this two standards of justice. Can you commit to viewers that you're going to be tough on the other side, and you are going to investigate some of these massive questions? You've got Russia collusion lie. You've got what you just talked about in terms of the January 6th situation, and people knew that there was going to be violence, and the Capitol was still vulnerable. Will you be investigating these things?
Absolutely. One of the many areas where the Democrats have failed is Congress has oversight over federal agencies, and we need to hold those federal agencies accountable. Republicans are going to have on every single committee an oversight agenda. That means when it comes to, for example, securing the border in that crisis and the illegal flights of migrants to the state of New York, my home state, we're going to conduct that important oversight. When it comes to the controversies and I believe the criminal acts of Hunter Biden and his connection to the President of the United States, we will also make sure that we're conducting that oversight and asking those tough questions, including with subpoenas, which are very important. We're also going to make sure that the politicization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, that needs to be rooted out at its core. I've seen that firsthand on the House Intel Committee. We're committed to pursuing that.
Well, we have to know more about that, because the FBI certainly should be looked at post all of these issues. Elise Stefanik, thank you so much.